I was living with my family in an apartment in Tokyo at the time. I'm 40 years old and work for a pharmaceutical company. My wife is 38. We have 3 children, making us a family of 5. My wife and I have known each other since we were students. We got married in our second year. After graduation from university, she retired when we got married and became a housewife. When our second child was born, the apartment we had been renting until then became too small, so we took the plunge and bought a large apartment with a loan. I had a good income, so if all went well, I would be able to pay off the loan in about 10 years. I think my wife was smooth sailing, just as I had envisioned. Then, my wife found out she was pregnant. I thought that 3 children was enough. In fact, we had hardly participated in the act of child-making, so I honestly felt something was wrong. My wife was going to give birth at an older age. When my wife requested an amniotic fluid test, I secretly requested a DNA test as well. The conclusion was that the child in my wife's belly was not mine. And not long after that, I found out who the father was. He was a 20-year-old college student who lived in the same apartment. I didn't use a private investigator, but the college student's sister came to me for advice. This sister was a junior high school student that was in the same class as my eldest son. When she was in elementary school, she came to my house several times to play with my eldest son. She had casually overheard her brother, a college student, talking on the phone with a friend in his room. Yeah, and she easily fell for me. Housewives are so stupid. She's got 3 kids, but she still isn't satisfied. That's the gist of the conversation. And when the sister checked on her brother's activities, she found that he was in and out of our house frequently. She was worried that her own brother was cheating, so she came to me for advice. It was a coincidence that the DNA test results came out at the same time that the sister told me about it. It made it easier for me to find the man between the 2 of us, and to be honest, it saved my life. So, I confirmed the facts with my wife. Hey, you're cheating on me with a college student, aren't you? Then my wife goes, I'm sorry. So simply. I was expecting a little more bluffing and excuses. I exclaimed to her, No use hiding it when I've got the proof right here in my belly. And she rubbed her stomach. That pissed me off. What the hell are you trying to do? I asked her. Then, the devil is playing tricks with me. I didn't think I would get pregnant at my age, my wife replied. It sounded like my wife was expecting this situation, which is why she was able to keep her cool, but I can't admit it. We're getting a divorce. Once I said that, my wife's attitude suddenly changed. I'm sorry. Please don't divorce me. I will never do anything like this again. I will do whatever it takes, but please forgive me for the divorce. My wife got down on her knees and said this. I couldn't understand what she was thinking. She knew I would find out and ask her about it, but she never imagined that I would ask her for a divorce. Then what about the baby? I asked her, and she rubbed her head on the floor. I'll get rid of it. I'll abort it and start over again with you. That's the height of selfishness. So I said to her, if you get rid of the baby, I'll divorce you as soon as possible. My wife didn't seem to understand what I meant and looked at me blankly. I only want one thing. I want you to have the child, have the college student recognize them as their child, and then take you and the child with him. I wanted him to atone for this sin for the rest of his life, and I promptly explained their mother's infidelity to my 3 children. I knew it might hurt them, but I couldn't let them live in ignorance. So, I wanted to make sure that I told them before anyone else did. Your mother brought some other man into our home, and she is carrying his baby. When I told them this, my youngest son looked at me with a puzzled expression, but my eldest son and eldest daughter understood what I meant, and were shocked. My eldest daughter is especially fastidious. From that moment on, she stopped talking to me at all. The college student, on the other hand, ran away immediately after I informed him that my wife had confessed and that she was pregnant. I hired a detective agency to search for him and found out that he ran away to Nebraska, where his father lives. For the time being, I left the college student alone and reported the fact to his father. The college student's father, who was a person who could understand what I was trying to say, or perhaps he was not convinced of his son's infidelity, provided me with a lock of the college student's hair and agreed to a DNA test. It was easily confirmed that the father was the college student. After the results came in, I had another talk with the college student's father. What are you going to do about it? My wife is pregnant with your son's child. When I said this, the college student father got down on his knees and told me, I am sorry. I know it's very difficult, but can't you do something to make it go away? My son has a future ahead of him. What he meant by go away was that he wanted the baby to be aborted, and since his son is a college student, he wants me to raise the child as my own. He was humble in his speech, but his argument was outrageous. I was really pissed off. That's bullshit. He's not my kid. But the college student's father didn't back down. Of course we will prepare the power of attorney for you. We'll pay you alimony too. Of course. The college student's father's words made me nauseous beyond anger. It seemed that both the college student and his parents only see abortion as an option. Moreover, the college student's father was determined not to have his son do any of the dirty work. I stood up and said, "I'm sorry, but this negotiation is getting nowhere. I have a lawyer present, so from now on, please talk to me through my lawyer." But the college student's father was still trying to get through to me. "Please, do something about that. Just tell me how much you want. I will make sure to pay you." I shook him off, saying, "It's not about the money," and left the college student's home, unable to hide my indignation. As I was putting on my shoes at the door, the college student's sister came to see me off. Sorry about my brother." I contained my indignation, smiled, and shook my head. "You have nothing to apologize for. Thanks for telling me." And I left the room. I felt so sorry for her that she had to apologize for her brother that it made me cry, but I never saw her again after that day. She had moved to Nebraska to be with her father's family. The father's the president of the homeowners association of his neighborhood, so he is well known. So of course, this incident spread quickly. The sister had classmates living around the neighborhood. He may have transferred her to another school out of consideration for her. I felt sorry for her, but I had no choice but to go all the way. I decided to hire a lawyer and fight the case to the bitter end. I heard that the college student's father also hired a lawyer around the same time. I thought I would have to negotiate mainly through the lawyer. For some reason, the other party's lawyer tried to contact me frequently. Of course, I ignored all of them. In the meantime, my wife's baby was growing up fast. At that point, the abortion limit was less than a month away. Although I still live under the same roof with my wife, I get nauseous just by looking at her. The kids all glare at their mother, especially when my wife's morning sickness got worse. My eldest daughter had lost her temper completely. "Grandma, help me! That woman was throwing up in the bathroom and I was so disgusted I couldn't take it anymore." I was about to cry when I heard my daughter talking to my mother on the phone, and since it was summer vacation, I decided to send the 3 kids to my parents' house. My mother offered to take them. And my sister and her husband live near my parents' house, and they don't have kids, and they have free time, so they said they'll take care of it. And I was left alone in hell. I was told that the abortion limit was imminent. The college student side's lawyer finally got in touch with my lawyer. Briefly, here's what the other side wanted. 1. The college student will pay a 6-figure amount in alimony. 2. The college student will pay for the abortion and subsequent medical treatment, but I need to sign the consent form. 3. The student will move out of the apartment he is living in and move to Nebraska with his family as soon as possible, so please do not contact him at all after that. This is a very reasonable proposal for them. I'll pay you money, but please don't hurt my college student's future. After all, it's like slapping me on the cheek with a wad of cash. After all, both the college student and his father wanted me to do their dirty work. They wanted me to sign the papers for the abortion. The college student's lawyer repeatedly complained to my lawyer. Looking back on it now, I can't believe but think how convenient it was. There is no way I was going to accept such a proposal. By the way, my wife knew my intention, but she didn't seem to be able to accept the reality. It was painful to watch. To be honest, I was hoping that she would solve the problem soon and leave the house. If the conversation was going to drag on, I thought I'd ask my in-laws for help, but my wife's parents refused to take her in. My brother-in-law, who lives with his parents, is a manager at his company. He said he couldn't take care of his sister who was divorced for being unfaithful to her husband. After that, my wife received a phone call from him saying, "Don't ever show your face to me again, and never come home." It was a very one-sided yelling phone call, and it was very loud because I was in the same room and could hear it. That phone call made my wife realize her position. "Please, give me another chance to start over. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to leave my children. Please give me permission to have an abortion." I was not moved one bit by her words. I told her plainly, "If you want an abortion, talk to the college student. Don't make me do the dirty work. It's up to them to decide which side they want to take. But did you not see how they were behaving?" My wife sat down on the floor, became stunned, and said nothing more. Not long after that, things took a turn for the worse. I had a meeting with my lawyer and presented my case to the college student again. Then, through my lawyer, my demands were quickly conveyed to the college student. 1. Let my wife have the child as planned and have the college student recognize it as his own. 2. The university student resigns from the university and the university student takes care of both the child and my wife. 3. The college student pays my mortgage in one lump sum as alimony. 4. The college student pays for my family's moving expenses and the down payment for the purchase of a new house. It's like this. And 2 weeks later, we had a final meeting in person with the college student. The place was my lawyer's office. It was my lawyer who started the discussion. I have communicated my wishes to you through your college student lawyer. Do you agree? The college student's lawyer replies, we would like to continue to maintain the status quo with regard to the treatment of college students and hope to settle out of court for a fee. Then my lawyer asks, by status quo, do you mean that your client will not leave the university? Yes, this is what he and his parents have always wanted. Anyway, he is a young man with a bright future, so could you please understand somehow? As usual, my lawyer insists. That is not acceptable. You must withdraw from the university and take the wife and child with you. This point is non-negotiable. At that time, the university student clucked his tongue. Then he said clearly, damn, shut up. The college student's lawyer glanced at him and turned to me again silently. Taking the wife and child, that's non-negotiable. Is that correct? My lawyer nodded, ignoring the college student. Yes. In order to reach a settlement, I will not compromise on this condition. The discussion went on, but in the end, we were able to come to a general agreement. The college students would sell their apartment and move out as soon as possible. The money from the sale would be turned over to me as alimony. The college student promptly dropped out of college and got a job with his father's family. The college student recognizes the baby as his biological child and pays $500 monthly in child support to my wife. The college student was to pay all legal fees, investigation fees, etc. The college student was insisting on not dropping out of school until the very end. He dropped out of the university he had worked so hard to get into and went to work in the countryside as a high school graduate. I understand why he didn't want to do it, but he didn't have to marry my wife, so this was the least he could do. But in the meantime, the deadline to get an abortion had passed. My wife ended up giving birth and living with the college student's grandparents. These grandparents heard about the situation and offered to see their great-grandson's face. They are very special people. My wife's family has been telling me every time that they refuse to accept her. They also asked me not to divorce if possible, but when I told them that the college student's family would take over, they readily agreed. After my wife had found a place to go, I finally divorced my wife because I knew she would be preparing for the birth. After the divorce, my ex-wife soon went to Nebraska. She asked to see the kids one last time. I had her call my parents' house in my presence. They didn't want to answer. They were devastated. Well, it makes sense after all she's done. And about 6 months later, the sale of the college kid's apartment was finalized. I received the money. I sold my house and went back to my parents' house. And by that time, my kids had settled down a bit. My parents, kids, and I were able to get back to a peaceful life. This was a few years ago. As a matter of fact, after I returned back to my hometown, I met a divorced woman who lived in a nearby apartment, who was divorced with no children. She lives alone with her dog, saying she doesn't mind being single for the rest of her life. My youngest son became friends with the dog, which is how we got to talking. Now, the whole family is friends with her dog, and the woman and I have been going out for drinks recently, and we're getting to know each other somewhat. My daughter even told us that we were a good match. I thought I was done with marriage and relationships, but I'm starting to feel like I want to take back what I said before. Maybe it's time for me to move on too. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you again. Please subscribe to our channel.